Welcome, Warren, to Q&Ahmed. We're excited to have you here to discuss some of the key challenges that leaders and organizations are facing when building trust with their stakeholders, and stakeholders are across the board. So why don't we spend some time and go deeper into the topic and hear your insights and some of the core strategies that we can use as the ecosystem around us changes and evolves.
At Edelman, we've been studying trust for the last 20 plus years. And one of the key findings we've found over that time is a growing trust in business. In fact, business is the most trusted institution ahead of governments, NGOs, and the media. And increasingly, that's a huge opportunity for business leaders. A responsibility, but also an opportunity.
Have you seen any dimensions change over the last several years?
One big change is the trust in business. In the past, there wasn't that high levels of trust, but over time we see growing a sense that business leaders are the ones who are both capable and ethical to solve those problems. It opened up a role for business leaders to play. And I think here's an opportunity because your consumers are asking for businesses to play that role. And they're looking for brands which reflect their own values and their own sense of how the world should be. And if you can position your organization in that sense, you have tremendous brand equity with your potential partners. Ahmed, maybe you could tell me a little bit about this public-private collaboration, because a lot of the people we spoke to believe that when businesses work with governments, that's when you get the best outcomes. What is Microsoft doing in that regard?
This is a great question, and we've been in business for about 48 years now, so we have some history of having worked with governments very closely. Look at fundamentally, if you think about the pandemic, right? The pandemic created many needs. One was about how can we allow businesses to virtually operate? How can we allow hospitals to virtually operate? How can we create education in a seamless manner where classrooms are restricted? Right. And therefore we had a responsibility towards society and governments, which I think we stepped up really well as technology firms across the board and created impact there. Now, as we look at the next generation of technology and the needs of technology, just in cybersecurity, there are 3.5 million jobs that remain vacant. And therefore, as a company, our role is to ensure that we work with governments, institutions, universities to enable that progress. And that's where we've developed a program called Ready for Cybersecurity, in which we're training individuals and upskilling them to be ready for the technology advances that will challenge societies as equally will enable societies to move forward in the future.
Maybe you could tell us a little bit about what is Microsoft doing to build trust in this new space as technology progresses so fast and changes all our lives.
Building trust is a continuum. Building trust requires effort and requires intentionality. And as Microsoft, we ensure that the technologies are safe for people to use and consume. As we're pivoting into this new world of generative AI, as we're pivoting into new and cutting-edge technology, the safety and security and trust dimensions have expanded quite dramatically. The aperture has widened. Yeah. And we as Microsoft, for about 6 or 7 years, have been propagating that we should think about how we define technology's use and its regulation. And we've been leading from the front. We believe that in enabling technology and in enabling regulations around that technology, we're actually going to help accelerate the consumption of that technology. Right. And what we therefore believe is doing it in a responsible way is the ownership of the corporates that are the forefront of developing these technologies in participation with the governments. We've spoken a lot about the multifacets of trust, but embedded in all these discussions was an underlying theme about business, right? And therefore, if I might transition into the next question, which is, what role do you think that CEOs and boards can play on societal issues such as climate, discrimination, or sustainability for that matter?
Thanks, Ahmed. It's an interesting question. And in a sense, people are looking for leadership from people like you and me, CEOs, because one of the findings that we had in all the data that we collected was that People trust scientists and teachers most, and then my CEO, people they know and they work with. So they're looking for their own leaders to help shape things. And as I was looking at the data, one of the findings that struck me most was that only 20 to 30% say they would be willing to help someone who had a different view from them, or be a co-worker with such a person, or live in the same community. And that to me is deeply, deeply troubling in the kind of inclusive, diverse world that we want to live in. And I think that's where CEOs can make a big, big difference in the lives of the people we work with, by saying that that's not the kind of organizations we want to be. We want to set the tone, the culture for organizations which are inclusive, which don't discriminate, which promotes meritocracy and rewards people fairly. I'm sure Microsoft is doing a lot in that front. We at Edelman also do that. And as leaders, as CEOs, I think we can make practical decisions, day-to-day decisions, which impact the lives of all our colleagues.
Warren, thank you for joining us at Q&Ahmed. And what terrific insights around trust. And I realize how important it is to build trust between communities, governments, societies, and citizens. I really appreciate the conversation.
Thank you, Ahmed.
this afternoon. And I hope to see you all very soon.